Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is great to have you on our show today. We have a huge potential breaking story with an offensive tackle that potentially could be hitting the portal. Boston College obviously lost Jeff Hafley. Ohio State has huge ties to Boston College. Obviously, Jeff Hafley worked for Ryan Day, Phil Matusta, strength coach, worked at Ohio State for a long time. Aaron is there. Those guys are all looking for jobs now since Jeff Hafley decided to go to the NFL. So now the Boston College window is open, and they have a massive 6'8" tackle who was all ACC second team last year, who would be a great fit on Ohio State, it looks like. So, be interesting to see what happens again when kids get these opportunities, make some scratch, join an all-star team like Ohio State is becoming. It's going to be really good. So, we're going to get into all that. As always, we appreciate you guys so much. If you could subscribe to this channel, click the like button, also click that little alert bell. Those are all huge for growing this. Again, let's make because you guys make it a great show, and we never forget that. We appreciate you guys always tuning in and kicking it. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Shout out to my Southern Ohio boys, as always, coming strong from Portsmouth and Gallipolis. You guys are always deep in the comments, so I appreciate you guys. But again, just love doing the show with you guys every night. You guys make it amazing. Nevada Buck and I are so thankful, so we're just going to get that out there. Let's get these super chats fired up. What questions do you guys have? Gonna bring in Nevada. Ozzy Trapilla is a guy we got tipped off on yesterday. He's a big dude. I watched some film of him this afternoon. 6'8", tall, angular guy. He's very lean. He's not as talented as Taylor Decker, but that's who he looks like from a physical standpoint. But he still has another year. I mean, he was second team all ACC as a junior, so he'd be a preseason all ACC tackle. And we need a tackle. I think that they're pretty decent at left tackle, but we bring this kid in at right tackle. I think it scratches an itch for the offense, and he's got 1 year left. And when you're in flux, and again, it's very traumatic when a coach leaves and there isn't a succession plan, like with Urban handing the torch to Ryan Day. That's a much different scenario than when a guy like Jeff Hafley just leaves, because all of the coaches that he leaves behind are out of a job. There might be one or two guys that get retained, but when a new coach comes in, he's usually coming from a smaller program or a different program, and he wants to bring his guys in that are loyal to him. So it's always kind of that that stark reality of coaching. Like a lot of coaches at Boston College are probably thinking, okay, we're on the road recruiting. Okay, let's get ready for spring ball, do some meetings, whatever, and then all of a sudden Jeff Hafley just leaves. So it's a stark dose of reality for them, but we could be a huge benefactor here. Nevada, your thoughts on Ozzy Trapilla? I'm going to pull him up on the big screen. Good looking kid. He looks like Luke Montgomery, which is hilarious. But he's obviously bigger. He's 6'8", which is great length for a tackle. But your thoughts on Ozzy? Great name too.
There's high level of interest. We, as you said, we mentioned his name yesterday. I had heard some rumblings that this might be afoot, and today you start seeing the usual opening salvos of people following each other on social media, representatives being contacted, people reaching out with interest, and I think Ohio State is the odds-on favorite to get him. And if you get him, I don't have many concerns about and frankly, I am probably in the minority, but I think we'll be just fine regardless of whether or not we add a tackle. But adding another guy is never a bad thing. Making it unfair is never a bad thing. More competition at key spots is never a bad thing. More depth in a grueling, potentially 15-game season is never a bad thing. So I'm excited about it. I think that, and this one's very live, guys. This one's very live. This one is a very high probability of happening. And look, Ohio State's the in school. I was with a higher up in the college football landscape last night, and his quote to me was, "I think everybody else is ready just to hand the championship trophy to Ohio State for 2024." And I just laughed. I was like, "Yeah, so we got a long way to go." And he's like, "No, you guys are just completely loaded up, and it's just fun to be on that side of the equation. It's fun to be ahead of the curve, and I think Ozzy could be the next piece that fits into the puzzle for 2024.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And there's been a lot of comments about it really getting sacked up right now, but I love it. Again, it's like I say when people have their opinions. Oh, we shouldn't take Michigan players. I'm like, dude, like let's make it as unfair as possible. Like if we can add a guy that's going to be preseason first team All ACC, a tackle, Adam. If you can add a tight end, Adam. And again, it's not a shot at the current guys on the roster. But anytime a new guy comes in, either he's going to be the guy or someone's going to be a lot better because of the iron sharpens iron mentality. Again, that's like, if a guy shows up and I'm the starting right tackle or projected or whatever, and then they bring this kid in, like I'm beating him out. Like I'm sorry, like I'm not going to let some kid take my spot, take my seat at the throne. And that was always my mentality because kids have always had to deal with it with recruiting. Every year they're trying to find a guy who's better than you, who's younger than you, that they can play over you, and you got to beat them out. Again, there's guys like I played with. Alex Boone was a kid that had a great NFL career, 6'8", 5-star guy. And like we weren't real good no four, and we're like we better sharpen up. And he ended up playing left tackle, and I played right tackle, and it was great. But they're always bringing in guys that are good. And again, I love that. Like I love a guy like Alex Boone coming in because it's going to make our team better. I want as much talent as humanly possible on the roster. And if guys get their feelings hurt or they got to transfer out, well, that's fine. I mean, this is big time football, and Ohio State's a big time program, and it's really hard. Like to be a starter at Ohio State is exceptionally difficult. Like you have to beat out really good players, and the coaching staff is always going to be looking for more really good players. They've been crossing the globe right now, trying to figure out who's next, who do they want to get, and I love it. I think that this is going to be fantastic. It'll be interesting to see if it comes to fruition. He's not formally in the portal, but Nevada. When you see coaches start following these guys and guys following coaches, there's some stuff going on. I'm not saying that the coaches are doing it, but with the layers of sophistication between most of these kids have agents, most of these kids have marketing reps because of NIL, and they also the high school coaches are getting visited by swarms of coaches from all over the country. Um, there's a lot of chit chat that happens. Like if I stop into Mater Day High School and I say, hey, how's this kid doing at Alabama or Georgia? Is he doing good? Does he enjoy it? Oh no, he hates it. He's homesick, or he doesn't like the coach, or he doesn't like the new coach. Oh well, just tell him I'm thinking about him, and hope he's doing good, and would love to see him if he ever has. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. Um, but like when coaches start following this guy and it comes vice versa, do you think that that's the beginning of how this thing always works, because these kids are always trying to find the best situations for themselves, and they should.
Yeah, well, it's basically, I mean, look, it's kind of modern day staking their claims, and people are doing it. But now with NIL, everybody has a registered agent. They all do.
Yeah.
Anybody that's in big time college football is with some agency who has a guy or guys that handle their NIL stuff, and those conversations they're legal, they're easy, it's not tampering, and that stuff happens every single day across the college football landscape, and that's the way that it's handled. But yeah, I think when you start seeing the social media stuff, it's been a pretty good indicator of at least mutual interest. And we've seen that time and time and time again with different players. And when that stuff starts happening, you generally know that it's more than just kind of internet blather. And then after that point, I can go to the agents, and with a couple of phone calls, I can pretty much find out at least if there's some validity to the fact that guys are looking. You don't necessarily get answers. You don't necessarily get, hey, this guy's going here or this guy's going there, or you won't go here. But you can definitely get a pretty good determination of whether a guy's in the market. And Ozzie is absolutely in the market, and Ohio State is absolutely in the market for a tackle. So it seems like a pretty good marriage.
Yeah, we got a couple super chats. Appreciate you guys. Will8282, thank you for the deuce. If you had to choose what player leaves the team at North, I mean, guys, they've got really good players and they're hot commodities. I mean, I would think Colson Loveland just because he's such a rare dude, and he's gonna have to have a new quarterback. He just lost his tight ends coach to the O line. He's a guy that like if I'm a stud tight end, you want to go to a system that is great for the tight end. And again, it's weird how good Iowa is at putting tight ends in the NFL. It's almost, excuse me, it's almost crazy. But I'd look at Georgia, I'd look at Ohio State. just because you want to be, in an offense that's going to get you ready for the NFL. I mean, you have 1 year to do it, and I think that he's a guy that has a lot of upside to do it. But their D tackles are in demand big time because you can't have enough defensive tackles. And defensive tackles, if you have a great team, you rotate two or three guys. Like that 2021 Georgia team that was maybe the best defense I've ever seen. Jalen Carter didn't even start, and he ended up being like the national defensive player of the year the next year. But he was he's rotating in off the bench. Like that's when you know you're killing it, when you've got guys that are monsters coming in with that second wave of guys. Um, but Will Johnson is a guy that obviously corners are an ultra premium position. You can't have enough great cover corners. Obviously, Ohio State, that's tough with Davison coming back and Denzel. He's going to want to be the number one guy wherever he goes. But again, the thing that makes it all intriguing is NIL because man, some of these schools are paying big bucks to get these kids, and if you look at a team like Texas, a team like Georgia, they've got a lot. Especially, Texas has a lot of money. Georgia does not. We outbid them on Caleb Downs substantially, but I don't know, man. Like I'm those guys. I'm at least looking, seeing what the number would be because why not? I mean, it worked out for Caleb Downs. He ended up in a way better situation, with on a way better defense, with a way better defensive coordinator, and he got a bunch, and he got paid, which is great. So we get to enjoy Caleb Downs for 2 years, which is amazing. And so that's my thought. Nevada, your thoughts on what player could leave the team up north?
Well, we talked about the defensive line. I wouldn't hurt my feeling either. It's just, for Ohio State, Ohio State defensively, last year he had great top end, didn't have terrific depth. So, depth pieces, rotational pieces, additional pieces are probably the only difference in this defense being great next year and being historically great. So anything like that would really help out. But I want to make a point about Georgia NIL. I talked to a guy who's pretty active with Georgia's NIL program, and he said the thing that killed their NIL, or I shouldn't say killed it, but like really slowed it down, was winning back-to-back national championships. And I said, well, how's that? And he goes, I think people got spoiled, and they were
Oh yeah.
like, we've won it, we've won our championships, and they're like, like it's like he goes, it was when we hadn't won one in a bit, everybody was so hot, to make it happen, but then we won a couple, and giving cratered 40%. So I found that just such a fascinating comment and fascinating observation on kind of human psychology, where people sometimes success can spoil you, and back-to-back national championships could result in a reduction in contributions instead of the other way around, which is counterintuitive to me, but that's what's happening.
I could totally see that. I think it makes perfect sense. It happens with our fan base. Like when we go to the Cotton Bowl, people don't go. They don't care. Because again, a lot of the stuff that they do is really wicked expensive. Like going to a national championship game, the Georgia playoff game. Those games are expensive. The hotels are expensive. The flights are expensive. Everything's expensive. So it's a chore to get in and get it done. Dub V Buckeye, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 10. Knowing what we know, and since the COVID threat is over, will the Cowards up north cancel this year's game in Columbus due to yellow fever? Can't run from us now. The hoax is over, and now it's time to actually play some football. I can't wait for the game in Columbus. One of the most anticipated games, maybe in Ohio State history. I mean, easily in Ohio State history, just because of what's gone on, the cheating, how good this team's going to be. Senior day for a lot of really good seniors that decided to come back for that last year. That's going to be an epic day in the Horseshoe. Ohio 7715, future Scoop Hall of Fame member and current Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 50. Scoop family's growing fast. Yes, it is. This is incredible. Congratulations. Y'all bring the heat, and we appreciate it a lot. What's up with the rumor Mariotti is done? Any truth to that? Y'all going to the Oregon game this year? OH, Nevada.
I-O.
Love it. Um, yeah, I saw that all over the internet. It came from Bucknuts and whatever. I mean, there's always going to be rumors when guys are over the age of 60 that they're going to be retiring or whatever. But like Mick, like I was talking to you earlier today, Nevada. I'm like, Mick's making like 1,000,000 too right now. Like, why would you ever retire from that job? Like, I get that, like, you got to put in the works, but like, he's never had a bigger staff, more control. He's making major money now. You got to remember, like Eric Lichter in 2011, his last year as strength coach made $175,000, which is great money. It's fantastic money. But literally, Mickey's making $1 million a year more as the exact same coach. So, with the way these salaries are split, people are like, "Oh, is this guy going to return?" I'm like, I don't know. Like Larry Johnson's making like 900 grand. Why would he retire? Like he didn't make that probably the first 30 years he coached. When he was a high school coach, he doesn't make no 900 grand. So, I think when you have great teams in a great room, I don't think that you'd want to go. Now, if you have a year where, like with Larry, after this year, if he retired, I wouldn't be surprised just because, he's losing JT Jack, Tyreek. That room's going to need a major injection uh, of players and talent. Obviously, we got the kid from Georgia. He's going to be really good, Edric Houston. But I mean, there's sometimes where you look at that offensive line. When I was coaching the line, we had like a loaded room. I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then there's some years where not so good. This is gonna be terrible. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? There was a rumor like Mickey was gonna retire. A name that I would watch that's really interesting that's available now is Phil Matus. Phil Matus was at Ohio State for like 5 or 6 years, I believe, and he was an understudy. He was basically Mickey's number two guy. He left with Jeff Halfley to go to Boston College. He's the head strength coach at Boston College. I do not know if what his status is. Obviously, when a head coach leaves or gets fired, everybody's basically gone. They might retain somebody. I don't know who. Obviously, they're just starting the process of hiring a new coach. So it's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up. Because if you gave me a short list of guys that could replace Mick, I'd probably put Phil on there somewhere because Ryan Day knows him. Ryan Day was with him the years he was the coordinator. He was with him in 19 because that was Halfley's 1 year as the DC. And then, obviously Jeff Halfley took Phil Matus with him to Boston College. So that's the name that I'd watch, kind of on the short list, because you always, when there's a transition at a position, every coach has like a little sheet with little tick marks of who are guys. If this coach leaves, who are my 10 guys I'd consider, and that list can grow, it can shrink. But, like for Mickey and Larry, I'm sure that like Ryan Day's got a big list of guys that he'd consider or want to get to know or study or whatever. Because that's his coaching. It's a very fluid profession. People come and go. Like they'd always joke, when you're a coach, like you rent the pullover, you rent the whistle, and that's it, and then you give it back after 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years when you're done. Like, Urban's done it, Trustle's done it, Corey Dennis just did it, Parker Fleming did it. Nobody's there forever. So, but Nevada, your thoughts on Mickey Marotti potentially retiring?
Yes, Mickey Marotti will eventually potentially retire, but you know, um, you just got to consider the source. Yeah, I don't want to get into the other site stuff because some sites do fine work, but this particular site, they try to put out rumors like every day about stuff, and that's just not the way that it works because then you have to manufacture them, and stuff happens, and sometimes you'll go 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and there won't be anything, and then other days you'll have tons of stuff, but no. Will Mickey eventually retire? Yes. Is there a serious conversation going on at Ohio State about Mickey retiring? No. So eventually that one will turn out to be right, but not today. And Mick loves his job, is energized by his job, loves the challenges of football and the other sports, and yeah, I think he'll be there for a long time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I found this. Let me get my little scene window up. I got another super chat. Let me switch this over. This is interesting. A little scouting report on Ozzie, the tackle from Boston College. Projected second, third round pick. So I mean, uh, Mike McGlinchey is the guy that's signed a $80 million deal with the Broncos. So that's his comp as a 6'8" guy. But he is a big, lean dude. Like you look at him on tape and you look at his photos. I mean, he's a 6'8", but he's a lean guy. He's like Taylor Decker. Taylor Decker had no fat on him, great kid, and that's who this kid could be, And the good thing about a kid like this is when because Ryan Day could call Jeff Halfley. Jeff Halfley's gone and say, "Hey, what do you know about this kid?" And Jeff can give him a big thumbs up or a thumbs down. Hey, he's great. Hey, he's a turd. And you could also call Phil Matus because Phil Matus is a free agent right now and never hurts to call and check. I mean, like Jeff Halfley, like you're not even tampering anymore because he's literally a Green Bay Packer. So, I think that makes me more confident when it comes to diligence and just really getting a good handle on if you should go all in on a player, if you should call the foundation and say, hey guys, we need a big chunk of money to get this kid to lock up that right tackle spot for us. Because that could happen. And again, anytime you have connections like Ohio State has with Phil Matus, Matt Thurin, obviously Jeff Halfley, they're connected with Ryan Day, Mickey Marotti. They can really get a good, strong vetting of a kid like this, which I love that because you don't want to have another Victor Cutler situation where you bring a kid in and he just, he can't play, because it's just bad because you waste money and you make, when you bring in a guy into a room and he can't play and he gets a big chunk of money, it just upsets the apple cart. It's the worst thing to do. Now, if you bring in a kid that's awesome, like Caleb Downs, who's been phenomenal in the Woody Hayes, like the people I've talked to said this kid is going to be a captain maybe next year as a third year junior. He's like that kind of kid. Then that's great. Like, I love guys like that. We got Tina Butera. Appreciate you. Thank you for the 10. Tina is one of our biggest supporters on Twitter. We appreciate you retweeting all of our stuff. You guys are the best. You guys that retweet our stuff and help grow our Twitter following. And follow our Facebook group. We got a big Facebook group. It's really growing. So if you guys are on Facebook, follow our stuff. Appreciate you guys. Tina, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being so great to us. I saw several reporters today mention Bill O'Brien on the list for BC coach. Didn't he just sign a contract with Ohio State? Hashtag go Bucks. I mean, Bill O'Brien's a guy, he's been up for a lot of jobs just because, he did such a great job at Penn State. And really, he did a great job with the Houston Texans. I mean, he went to the playoffs 4 out of 6 years. And, the one year that, where the wheels kind of fell off was when Deshaun Watson was suspended. So, when you have a quarterback in the NFL, you basically have no chance unless you have like an owner who's a long-term visionary. And most owners are just dumb. They've got a lot of money, but it doesn't mean they're like good football minds, and they don't have the patience for a rebuild, which the rebuilds can just be miserable and treacherous. But I think it would be a terrible move by Bill O'Brien to leave that quick. Usually, what Urban used to always do is ask coaches for a 2-year commitment. Give me 2 years and I'll hire you. So then you're not turning guys over. And most coaches honored that unless they were just, they were terrible and they got fired after 1 year. Or Jeff Halfley got offered a really good head coaching job. And excuse me, he had that 19 defense was as loaded as we've ever had. So, he knew that 2020 defense that was coming back wasn't going to be anywhere near as good without Chase Young, without Okuda. We just had Jordan Fuller. We had a lot of guys that were leaving. So he got out while the getting was good. And I don't fault that guy because, he went out and got paid. And now he's a DC in the NFL, which is great on a great young team. But Nevada, your thoughts on O'Brien? Because he's going to be the hard part with him is I love Bill O'Brien. I love everything about him. I think he's tough. He's nasty. He gets after it. He works really hard. But he's always going to be up on the rumor mill for coaching jobs like a Boston College job. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's not a fact that's lost on Ryan Day or was lost on him when he hired him for this job. And so, Ryan's not, he couldn't have done this without a commitment from Bill for at least a year or if not 2 years, kind of following the Urban Meyer model. Because, for every head coaching job that's available, for every college job that's available, for every, NFL offensive coordinator position that's available, Bill O'Brien's name is going to be linked to it. But, it's not like he's a guy that hasn't been a head coach before and has only got $5 in the bank and this is going to be his one chance. I mean, O'Brien's been a head coach in the league, so I mean he's got tens of billions of dollars in the bank. Doesn't need the money. This is the I think it would be an egregious breach of ethics if he were to leave Ohio State before he barely even started to go there to BC. So I would put this in the category of extremely unlikely happening. I just don't believe that he would. I don't believe he would do that. That it would be. I mean, this would be like who was the Cleveland Cavaliers guy that asked him to let him out of his
Boozer,
contract?
Carlos Boozer. I'll never forget that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that. Yeah, let me out of the contract so I can sign an extension. Here, you're out. Okay, I'm going to go sign with Utah or whatever he did.
oh,
So,
that was incredible. Like, what? He made a ton of money, but it's like, God bless. Like, do you need looking at yourself in the mirror? You know?
yeah, so this would be along those lines right there, and Bill O'Brien would. Yeah, I just don't see it happening. Now, could it happen? Hey, anything. I never ever say
No,
never, but I would put this in the category of highly unlikely.
no, I totally agree. I think it's highly unlikely. I think it's it's one of those deals where Bill O'Brien. I think he puts in the work for 2 years, especially after this year. Because again, if he gets an incredible offer after this year, like if this offense is gangbusters like we project it to be, with the talent we're going to have, especially if we had Ozzie at tackle, and then he has a monster year and he gets a monster job offer, then he's got to go. Like you got to do it. At the end of the day, you got to do what's best for your wife and kids. Like that's it. Period. End. They're the most important people in the world. You got to take care of them. But I can't see him wanting to take Boston College because I think that's a terrible job. Terrible job. It's like Notre Dame without the prestige, without the national persona, without the NBC contract where you get a ton of money. And you got to go play like especially you have like it's like one of those academic schools. And like I would never take a job at an academic school where it's like Northwestern, Stanford, because it's just you automatically chop off 70% of the kids. And they make exceptions to get kids in there that, wouldn't normally get into a school like Boston College. But, you got to go line up with those guys and go play Clemson and Florida State and Miami and NC State. And I said this last night, but it's like, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? And then you're in a state that has no talent at all. Massachusetts, small state. So, any good players in that state are leaving. They're going to Ohio State or Penn State or somewhere. They're not going to BC. So, if I'm Bill O'Brien, man, I'm leaving for like a major job, like a big time SEC job, big time Big Ten job, not Boston College. Because that's, I think Jeff Halfley literally left that place because I think that he knew that you can't I mean, he'd be fired in a year or two. I mean, they stunk this year. I mean, they weren't good. They had 7 guys make All ACC, and Ozzie made second team All ACC. But as a team, they stunk. So, I think that sometimes these guys get out before the posse can get to them, and I feel like that's what Jeff Halfley did. So again, thank you, Tina. Appreciate you, Mike Green. Thank you for the 5. What do I tell these idiots up north, fans, when they say there's no proof to these allegations? It's just hearsay. Well, I don't know. Did you see what they did to the Alabama baseball coach? Do you see that, Nevada?
No, what they do?
Oh my God, 15-year show cause. And if he ever gets a job again, he's suspended for the first 5 years of it. So basically, they just shut. It's a death knell to his career. He's done. He's never going to coach college baseball again. And it was the gambling. It was being deceitful. Um, It was crazy. I'm gonna pull that screenshot up. But Nevada, talk a little bit about the show cause because I don't know how even the dumbest human being that's a Michigan fan has got to know the music's about to stop real quick. I mean, again, there's a reason why everybody's leaving. Everybody, all the players are leaving, the coaches are leaving, portal's gonna get filled up. I mean, they know what's coming. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, don't take my word for it. For anybody who's saying, "Hey, I have friends from Michigan that are saying this is all out, hearsay or whatever it is," just use this thing called the Google machine and go to Google and type in Michigan NCAA infraction. The letter of allegations for the first one is already there. That's in writing. For the second one, just Google Tony Petiti's letter to Michigan. It's 10 pages, I believe. It take you 4 minutes to read it or something like that. And it lays out all of the allegations against Michigan. But what's interesting in there is there are statements from the NCAA in that letter where it says they know and can prove the following, and they lay it all out. So this isn't just Nevada and Kirk talking about pie in the sky stuff or wild fantasies about treason and what are the things that we can hit with Michigan with. This is all stuff that's in writing. It's all in writing. It's all online. It's all documented in the first letter of allegation to Michigan and Tony Petiti's letter to Michigan that was resulted in the major sanction, kind of an unprecedented major sanction, another second in-season suspension for Harbaugh this year that went down. So no, it's going to be bad. I know that in the if you look at the clip that's on the board right now, it talks about how the NCAA is particularly concerned with things that affect on-field the competitive advantage. And what could be more on-field competitive advantage than a massive electronic surveillance, sign stealing, advanced scouting, cheating program that Michigan did? I mean, I literally couldn't think of one. And no, I've said many times on the show that the NCAA is seeking their place in this new landscape. They're desperate to find some validity and trying to find a home for themselves. And their home is policemen. And the Michigan thing is a perfect opportunity for them to exercise their power. And it's for the most egregious thing. It's for people that are repeat offenders. It's for lack of institutional control. Michigan checks every one of those boxes, and that's why they're going to get hammered, and that's why everybody's fleeing the program right now.
Yeah, and Tina Butera, again, you're awesome on Twitter. Appreciate all you do, retweeting our stuff. She literally screenshotted this and said to all the people from Michigan that are complete idiots and don't understand how bad this is going to be. This is the summary judgment against this coach that was betting on games. And it says, it talks about integrity of the games. And then at the very bottom, like you guys can read this, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but it said the school and enforcement staff also agreed that following his separation from the school, Bohannon failed to meet his obligation to cooperate with an NCAA investigation when he did not participate in an interview, did not disclose relevant information, and did not provide access to electronic devices to further the enforcement staff's investigation. And again, Michigan didn't. I mean, Connor Stallions didn't cooperate at all. Guys were deleting stuff, and again, we just know the surface level stuff and the stuff that got leaked. We don't know how deep this was, but Michigan, they were not cooperating at all, and it really, I think that's gonna be the hammer because again, you can't just thumb your nose at the NCAA and say, oh, sorry, we don't have it anymore. Oh, sorry, we deleted that. Oh, sorry, it doesn't exist. Oh, sorry, I'm just not going to talk. Like, like if you do that in the federal, in a gang trial. Oh, I'm not going to talk. Then you just go to jail. These guys are about to go to jail. They're about to get hammered. I mean, the best thing you could do in this scenario, in my opinion, is cop to it, plead for mercy, and you're still going to get hammered. But it ain't going to be like if you just do the double bird to the NCAA because again, that's where they're crazy. Is like you could try to defend it, but you can't just delete it and forget about it and Connor Stalions not talk and that just I think you get smacked harder by doing that. VP of Hype, thank you for the 5. Check out the interview of Mick on the Carrie Cross show tomorrow. I will. Carrie is awesome. That is my girl. Her dad is one of my biggest mentors in the entire world, Keith Wendell. Shout out Keith Wendell. That is my boy. So I'm going to watch that. I saw Carrie. Carrie interviewed me. That was like one of her first 10 interviews, I think, and she does a really good job with her podcast. Tater Buck, thank you for the 10. How does O'Brien's offensive philosophy differ from Day, and what should we expect to be different on the offensive side of the ball this year? Well, it's still the Ohio State offense, which is largely Ryan Day's offense, but I'm sure Bill O'Brien, he loves two tight end stuff, which is why I think, if we got Colson Loveland, it would make his life a lot easier. But, schematically, they're pretty similar. He doesn't do as much stretching to the boundary. But, when they were really good, um, heavy vertical passing game. I mean, when he was like at his peak, I mean, some of those years with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller were just like majestic to watch. I mean, that was when, you prayed to God you got the first pick so you could get Arian Foster and you could get, Hopkins was the number one receiver. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was like 4 times first team All Pro in a row, 3 or 4 times. And that's like, you're literally one of the 2 best receivers in the entire league. So, Bill O'Brien was feeding that dude. And that's what I'm excited about. And Will Fuller was the speed guy, which is what Carnell Tate could be. Will Fuller was a 4-3 guy. We played against him in that 2015 that waxed that Notre Dame team out at the festival. Will Fuller was, a guy that looked like he should be playing for Ohio State. He crushed us. He was really fast. Obviously, we killed them, but that guy, when he got the ball in his hands, he was electric. He had, God, like 3 ACLs torn, but he was a legit 4-3 guy, and I'm excited to see if we get a little more vertical in the passing game, because that's something that I don't think that we take enough shots, like true deep shots, and maybe it's because we don't have guys that are good at it. I mean, I've given up on Jaden Ballard at this point. I'm Carnell Tate, Ennis, JJ Smith. I think those guys are all much better than Jaden, and I don't think the coaches trust Jaden. So, but I'd love to see like a true deep threat emerge, and like for my money, that's Carnell Tate. He's the burner. he's the guy that can do it. Buckeye Blitz, thank you for the five. What exactly did Harbaugh lie about in the first investigation, and how do we know? My uncle is a scum fan who thinks the coach has never told a lie. Well, I mean, if he thinks Jim Harbaugh's never lied, I mean, tell him to start paying a little bit more attention. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's, you know, he's about as disingenuous as it gets. I mean, he's the guy that's been dying to get out of there. Um, and he's been very open about that. Nevada, your thoughts on Harbaugh lying, the investigation? I can't imagine Jim Harbaugh spilling the beans when he's getting investigated by the NCAA. He's probably just going to say, "Oh, we don't know. We didn't do anything. I have no idea. Like, I don't know why my coordinators are watching everything this intern does, and this intern standing next to him, Connor Stein. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?"
Well, I mean, as the first letter of allegation, I mean, that it's in black and white, and it was laid out. And the NCAA took kind of an extraordinary step, something I don't think I've ever seen before. But the Michigan guys were making comments, and Harbaugh was making comments, and they were calling it the cheese. Oh, this is just over a cheeseburger. And the NCAA actually came out, addressed that, and said, "Hey, this isn't about a cheeseburger. This is about lying and obscuring information to an active NCAA investigation by the head coach. That's why it's a level one infraction." They literally came out and said that. So, yeah, for anybody said that Jim Harbaugh isn't lying, well, the NCAA begs to differ. And I mean, like I said, when they came out and called them out on that, I was shocked. I'd never seen anything like it. I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like that. I don't think they've ever commented on like an ongoing investigation like that to try to clarify misinformation, but they did, and just another reason why Michigan's cooperation with the stuff has been less than exemplary, less than cooperative, and another reason why the hammer's going to fall.
Yeah, it's a funny world because I just think that that's been one of the weirdest relationships I've ever seen between Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Excuse me as I put this link out on Twitter so we get some more of our folks in here. My fault for not doing that before the show. Um, but yeah, I just think that the way he's acted with Ward Manuel has been disingenuous. And again, a lot of it's Ward Manuel's fault. Like he took this man's paycheck and cut it in half, and then expects the same sort of relationship. And and he was thinking it up, but I'm glad he's gone, and I think that they're going to regress to what we've known and loved for the last 20 years, and I'm really excited about it. C. Brown, thank you for the five. Appreciate you, my friend. Watching the podcast in women's basketball, my 13-year-old son asked why can't the boys team be more like the women's team? I punt that to y'all. Thoughts? Whew. Well, I'll tell you what, McGuff does a great job. I mean, he is killing it right now. The head women's coach. They've got a lot of momentum. It's funny. They packed the shot. Now, obviously, it was the girl from Iowa that came to town, but that's so impressive. It's really impressive. Um, Men's basketball is it's just weird. Like it's been a weird couple of years, 2, 3 years with Chris Holtman. And again, I think he's a really nice guy, but they're not buying what he's selling. Like I mean, that's all there is to it. They're not, whatever he's singing, they ain't retaining. So, Nevada, why can't men's basketball be more like women's basketball?
Well, I think you hit it right in the head. I think the girls clearly have bought into the system that the coach is running, and the men have clearly turned off and don't want to run it. And that game against Iowa was fun to watch. But I know I mentioned this before, but if you have a chance for some humor, watch the Caitlin Clark incident at the end of the game
Oh my God.
where she claims she got ran over by the fan, because there's about four different angles of the incident, and what a flop, man! What a bunch of baloney. And like I like Caitlin Clark, and I'm really happy with what she's done for women's basketball, but like you can't do stuff like that and then cry because clearly you're upset because you lost, and I get it. Losing's hard. You guys win a lot, and you're amazing, Caitlin. But like, don't claim you were assaulted by this poor girl that was on the court.
Like taking
I
a
mean,
selfie. Like she had her phone like this. She's like live on Instagram, whatever, or live on
yeah.
TikTok. It's like, hey, hey, and just I was like,
Oh, that was so bad. But yeah, if you get a chance on YouTube, watch. call that one up because it is. I laughed and laughed and laughed every time I watch it because I'm just like when you watch that and then you read it, you contrast that with the after the game reports about how Caitlin was assaulted and it wasn't safe and they got to do something about fans rushing the court and all this stuff and then you see what actually happened. It's just it's comedy gold.
Well, I think that like, when you're in those situations, the only two times I dealt with a field that had been stormed in my career as a player, the only time it happened is we lost to Purdue in 2004. Now, mind you, we sucked. We were 7-3, so that took us to 7-4. So we sucked. So it was kind of embarrassing that Purdue stormed the field, but Purdue's a trash program anyways. It's embarrassing they stormed the field like when we're a three-loss team. Like we're clearly trash. Um, but when that happens and you're on the field, you really like. I just had my head on a swivel. I mean, I'm not like scared of someone jumping me or punching me, but most of the people that are running on the field are really drunk. Most of them, or they're excited. So you just got to keep your head on a swivel. It's crazy. Then the best one ever though was in 2011. We lose to Michigan in the Big House. To put like the final cherry on top of the turd Sunday that was 2011. The only thing that was better is that then we had to go play in that stupid Gator Bowl that nobody wanted to play in or coach in or anything. But we lose to Michigan, and if you guys have been to the Big House or seen it on TV, it's like a giant salad bowl. Looks like a big bowl. And when we lose, we're in the visiting press box. I was in the visiting press box with Jim Bowman, Doc Tressel, a bunch of interns. We're all up there, and like we have to walk like across the concourse, and then we have to go to the concourse and then go down to the stairs and literally walk down and they literally have like one staircase that goes all the way to the top. So we have to walk down like 8 million stairs and we're all in bright red Ohio State polos and it was a little cold. So some of the guys had jackets on. So we look like complete idiots. There's like 10 of us in a row going down these stairs and people are ruthless and they're nasty and they're drunk and they're excited because they hadn't beaten us in a long time. And again, we sucked. We were a six-loss Ohio State team, which is the most trash thing. I mean, I've been. I guess I tell people I've been a part of an undefeated team. I've been a part of a seven-loss team. Seven losses is the most losses in Ohio State history, going back to like 1890 something. And when I was down there, man, people are mean. They're nasty. They're insulting and you gotta protect yourself. You gotta keep your head on. So like again, the one thing I didn't want to do was swing on somebody because with my luck, I'll end up hitting somebody. They'll fall down the stairs, they'll die, or they'll be maimed, and then I get sued, and I'd be like, he deserved it. But again, this is that's not good optics for the program and for my beginning blossoming coaching career at that time. But yeah, it's when those things happen, man. You gotta keep your head on. So if you're a player or a coach. Couple more super chats. Mike Green, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the deuce. Ward Emmanuel looks like a ballpark hot dog. He is really fat, like really fat, and it's like, I mean, they got to get that guy on a treadmill, man, or have him put down the fork at some point. Um, Expedition Greg, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the five. So, do you know about Iowa? I just saw this literally as I was tweeting our link. Um, they're self-reporting a level 3 violation of improper communication with Caden Proctor. Well, because he narked on himself. Like that was the funniest thing ever. Is when they, and this is where you know a kid is just trying to be honest and harmless, and and Iowa was cheating. I mean, Iowa literally was contacting this kid, and they put the microphone in his face and Caden, he's at a basketball game, and Caden, you're back. We're so happy you're back. How are you doing? What brought you back to Iowa? And he's like, well, that even when I was down in the SEC and I was playing like trash and struggling in the SEC, Iowa's coaches kept reaching out to me and encouraging me and telling me to do good. And I'm like, really? I was like, they're that stupid? Like, you can't talk to a guy on a current roster. Like, are you crazy? But it happened. So they had to turn in a violation because Caden Proctor narked on himself. Because again, most of these kids, I'm not saying Caden's a bad kid or a dumb kid, but a lot of these kids just don't know the rules. You know, they don't have to take the test. Like when you're a coach, you have to take a compliance test where you know, most of the rules, especially ones like that. But Iowa was probably desperate and cheating. Nevada, your thought on that? Because I think it's probably more prevalent than you think. But God, you're playing with fire if you contact the kid as a current coach. I think it's insane. Your thoughts?
Yeah, when that happened, we called that out as a violation.
Oh God.
We were shocked that that had actually occurred. Not no, I shouldn't say that we were shocked that it occurred. We were shocked that the kid would actually talk about it occurring. I'm none of this surprises me. But you know, I was doing this the right way. They get in front of this, they report it. They, you know, if you get in front of this stuff, you report it. Please, you're sorry. You discipline the parties that do it, and little things don't turn into big things. But you try to lie about it, you try to cover it up, you try to minimize it, you try to call it just about a cheeseburger, and all of a sudden this level 3 thing turns into a level 1, and you've got a big problem on your hands. So it's never the crime; it's always the cover up. So I think Iowa did the right thing in terms of getting ahead of this, and from their standpoint, it's all worth it because the kid's back in Iowa, and so their time that they spent investing in him while he was down there in Alabama clearly paid some dividends.
Yeah, like I just, you know, in the world of electronic media, like that stuff's always there. You know, and if you're texting a kid, calling a kid, you're kind of at the mercy of the kid at that point. So you know, I don't know if I got to put this on. B Moses is a genius, man. I love B Moses. B Moses, our guy. He's gonna we're gonna start doing some more podcasts with B Moses. You guys know him. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, go follow him. He's one of the funniest dudes of all time. But he put this up, and this is amazing. Uh, Tim Walton throws the cigarette in the air, cigarette in the lip. This is a meme, so I mean he's just being funny here, but it's uh it's awesome. And God, what a job Tim Walton is on. Good God, is he killing the game right now? But Brandon Moses is hilarious. So you guys follow him. He does a fantastic job. I'm going to stay here for a second. I love this. Tim Walton has just turned into an absolute menace on the recruiting trail, and I love it. Pooh Beer 12, thank you for the five, brother. Caitlin Clark's flop was softer than most of us. Thinking of Nicole Auerbach. God, you guys are creative and good. Any locker room winter workout updates on the team slash multiple freaks? Well, we're getting there. We're still they're still doing kind of phase 1 of winter, which is mostly it's all with Mick because the coaches are on the road right now, so they don't get to work. They don't get to work the kids out. You know, once the dead period hits, which is pretty quick here. And again, just to explain this, because again, I try to make stuff simple. So what it means is right now is a period where it's a live period where these guys are allowed to be on the road. So you see that's why every day on Twitter you see Ryan Day's in Houston or he's in Miami or he's in Atlanta or he's in Cleveland or wherever. And he's you know he's taking photos with coaches and players and whatever. And so in a week and I'll look up when the dead period starts. It's right before signing day, maybe a week before signing day, the second signing day, they have what's called a dead period. A dead period means the coaches cannot be on the road. They can't be out recruiting. They can't be going through the high schools. So it kind of all shuts down. And when that happens, which is usually, you know, it might, I think it might start next week actually. Then the coaches can get back in, and that's when they start phase 2 of winter, which is the winter workouts, which is 6 a.m. workouts. And these things are just trash. These things suck. You know, we had we had mat drills 2 days a week and we had agility work 2 days a week with Mick and like you know and I was coaching them. So mat drills are a battle of toughness. You know, you do a lot of different stuff. A lot of stuff we did in 2012 is illegal now because it was so brutal, which was actually kind of hilarious because I would look at some of the stuff we did and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be around much longer because we did a drill where guys would literally there'd be a long wrestling mat down on the ground. And the drill, as Mickey and Urban explained it, was it's two guys. There's one guy on his stomach on the ground, and he has to like army crawl to the other end. And the guy behind him has to pull him, and he has to do whatever it takes to keep the guy from getting there. So some guys like me would think, you know, pull as hard as you can, grab as you know, and you're like you're doing it like kind of like it's kind of like wrestling. Like you're not you're not putting a guy in the sharpshooter or the Boston crab. Like you're like grabbing him by the neck and yanking him back. But we had some guys that were like beating like the hell out of guys, and I'm like, this is different. But hey, I can see why you guys were so tough at Florida when this is what you guys did. It was like cage fighting every day, but I loved it. I thought it was great because I was like, you get to see who really wants it and who doesn't, and we had a really well-known kid beat the tar out of the kid. I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. But and then when they do the agilities the other 2 days, it's just like pro agility, uh, verticals, but everything's competitive. It's like two guys going against each other, doing a bunch of different cone drills and that type of stuff. And they have a little intern that follows every group around and keeps score of who wins everything. So if it's Kirk versus Nevada, racing on two separate 3 cone drills. Then like I run around the cones and I run through the finish line a little bit ahead. And they say Barton wins, and then the next time we do the 20-yard shuttle, which they do at the combine, where it's like a 5 back, 10, 5 back. Nevada wins, and then at the end of the day, like what Urban used to do that was great is the winners would get like cold Gatorade and whatever, and then the losers would get like nothing or like warm bottled water, or they'd have to drink out of a garden hose or something. And he always had like crazy stuff that was hilarious, and I was like, that's great. Like the winners get like steak dinners and the losers get like cold hot dogs or whatever. It's just, I mean, it was hilarious. But we're getting there. It's gonna be cranking up. We'll get some updates on winter conditioning very shortly. So Nevada, any thoughts on winter conditioning? And I'm sure you wish that you got to do some of those workouts like I did back in the
Well,
day.
I think it would be interesting, and again, you and I've never talked about this really, but the difference between, because I've always, from talking to people in the program, from talking to people outside the program, I've heard about how, like you just said, that Meyer made everything like a competition, and how everything was that way. I mean, you trained under Tressel. Was it not that way under Tressel, or how? I mean, how was it different than when Meyer came from Tressel?
Well, the biggest thing is that they didn't keep score of everything. Like you could tell if a guy like had a good day or not, but there wasn't like with Urban, and I imagine Mickey does the same thing. They literally had a running tally of every day, and you get a little screen, little thing because these guys love data. They love, and again, some poor intern has to input Kirk won the second L drill versus Alex Min, whatever it is, and they got to input all that, and then they have an entire file on you. So that like if you go like and you get the spring ball and you're the instead of being the second team right tackle, you're the third team right tackle, and you're like, why am I third team? Like whatever. It's like, well, here's your ratings from the winner. Because they grade these kids every day on their workout. Are they like a national champion, Big Ten champion, average, below average, maize and blue? Like there's like 5 grades. National champions are really generally pretty hard to get, but they like to have data because if a kid, or even more likely a father or a dad, some of these dads that think their agents show up and they say, why is my boy not playing? Why is my boy not starting? And I mean, Ryan Day, like Urban had files on every kid. So, well, he got killed. He lost every single day that we did win or lose or in 6 a.m.s. He's missed class 7 times. He's been late. I mean, he would pray that a dad would walk in of one of the players that he was trying to process out of the program, because he would like basically like pull out like 2 machine guns, and it was like the Toll scene in Godfather One, basically. And some of these kids, like I'd tell some of these kids, man, do not let your parents call the coaches. Do not let them call Urban, because man, if you got a file, it's bad. But Trust just didn't, and it wasn't because he was lazy, but and we did fine. We were really good under Trust, but like this just like took it to the next level, like analytically, where again, I think that especially now, like in the transfer portal era, when kids are wondering, should I stay? Should I go? What's my future in the program? Where do I stand in the program? Like, Ryan Day could pull out a file on a kid, and like if it's like just say like Tigra Tishkabola, he comes in, with his parents and says, hey, I might leave, might not leave. What's my future? And he could say, well, you had a great winter. You trained. You were a national champion 6 times. You won 18 of the 30 win or lose your days. That's fantastic. Obviously, Josh was an older guy. He was a better pass blocker. You're getting your weight down, but we think you have a really good future. Or if Ryan doesn't think he has a good future, like some guys, he wants them to leave because he needs cap space to go get better players. You won one out of the 30 win or lose your days. You've been a weight guy. You're a high needs guy. You've always got a weight problem. You got to come and do Saturday cardio. This probably isn't a great place for you. We can help you find somewhere else that would be more beneficial for you for your playing career. So you can like when you have all that data, like it's just it makes it easier because then it's not like oh my that coach don't like my boy, that coach doesn't like my son. It's not one of those conversations. It's like no, like this is why we don't like him. He's an a hole. He's disrespectful. He's got a 1.8 GPA. He misses tutoring, whatever. And that's why like again, I like the data because then you have a scorecard and everything. And there's some days when you do these drills, like if you do mat drills or agility drills or whatever, like you're gonna have a mismatch at some point. Like if you're like, you know, a big blocking tight end and you have to race like G Scott, who's a lighter, like a wide receiver, basically, like he's probably gonna kill you in the agilities. Like there's nothing you can do about it. You can compete, but there's always mismatches sometimes because they rotate everyone so everybody kind of goes against everybody. Yeah, so there'd be some days like where I would just smoke guys in agilities, and then there'd be some days like if I raced a guy like Tyler Whaley who was 270 and he's faster than I am, then he's probably going to beat me because he's 40 pounds lighter than I am. So again, that's my dissertation. I actually have some old mat drill footage, so I'll toss that on real quick. Obviously, these are some of the guys that have moved on. There's Kyle McCord, obviously, but you can kind of see like what it is and it's intense now. I mean, it is. They start off doing quarter eagles. They do tug of war. I was always paranoid about tug of war because these guys all wear cleats. And I was always scared to death one of these guys is going to get their foot stuck in the turf and blow their ACL out doing tug of war, or a guy one team gets overwhelmed and you've seen that before. Like that scared me to death. Because again, when you're wearing cleats, man, you don't want to see some guy's knee get turned because of a stupid tug of war. Your thoughts, Nevada? That was a long diatribe on the workout thing, but it's important.
Yeah, no, I mean, we shared some of the early, the incoming kids, that were subject to testing. We shared some of the results. We'll have more of that stuff as it kind of um, goes through the winter workouts. But like you said, we're kind of in the early phases of it right now, trying to get some intelligence. We don't want to just throw out names of guys without really having some solid information about who's doing it, because every year during the winter there are guys that make those big transformations. And this year will be no different. It's just a question of who it's going to be, but we should have some stuff for you shortly. We'll be digging. Here's an interesting trivia question. This event was in the first three Olympic Games, and the United States won the gold medal. And then they got rid of the game. They got rid of the event, and in this event, the winning team moves backwards. And the answer is tug of war. That used to be an Olympic event back
When
in the
really?
early in the early first Olympics, tug of war, which I think tug of war would be what an unbelievable event that would be in the Olympics. That would be, some big old, you'd have to have some sort of weight thing on that. But
Oh yeah.
if you had like world class things in tug of war, I think that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, because if it's not a weight thing, you just hire all the strong men to do it. The guys that weigh 400 pounds or 60, like half Thor Bjornsson and those guys, and Brian Shaw, like those are the guys that would kill it in strongman. Evan Arvantis, thank you for the five. Appreciate you. What are some great things you've heard about Caleb Downs and JD Smith so far since they've been in Columbus? Thanks for everything you guys do. Well, JJ ain't gonna be here longer than 3 years. JJ is freak of nature testing wise. They do not run a 40 when the new kids show up just because they're just so paranoid about guys pulling a hamstring. And I totally get that. Like it's stupid to run a 40. Guy comes up, he's out for 3 weeks with a hamstring, he misses winter conditioning. That would be a disastrous start for these early enrollee kids. So they do a 10 and a 20. JJ had a really, really fast 10. I don't know the number right off my head. His broad jump was something like 10-10 or 10-11. It was the second highest on the entire team. Mind you, this kid's 18 years old, but he's built like an NFL player like today. Like if he went out and warmed up for the Kansas City Chiefs during the Super Bowl, he'd be their best looking wide receiver, in my opinion. He's that good looking. 6'4" and change, 220, runs like a deer. And the thing about JJ that you'll love is he's a very quiet kid. He's a great kid, and he is all football, man. And I'm not saying like when he's on the field, he is loud, but I'm not, like off the field, quiet, kind of shy. But he's obsessed with football. All he cares about is football. And those are my favorite players in the entire universe because you don't have to worry about them, on Saturday night, downtown or whatever. You don't have to worry about him doing something stupid. He's focused now. And again, those are my kind of guys. Caleb Downs, wow. Thank God for the foundation because when Ryan Day needed it, the foundation came through and got Caleb Downs. That was 100% on them. Obviously, Tim Walton and Jim Mills did great. Jim Mills is fantastic. Caleb is he's a pro's pro now. I mean, his dad's a really good NFL player, Gary Downs. His brother is a young superstar for the Colts, wide receiver. A guy that a lot of you guys who play fantasy is a guy you probably picked up on waivers after the first couple weeks. But Caleb, again, these guys, my favorite guys that we recruited the 3-and-out guys because they know if they put it in for 3 years they can change their lives forever. And Caleb's a 3-and-out guy for sure, for sure. And I just love everything I hear about him. He's assimilated great into the program. He's a leader already, which is crazy after just being here for a couple of weeks. But again, that's why you know anyone that's still on the train that I hate NIL and I wish these kids didn't. These kids could go back to being dirt poor. They're crazy because like NIL, it wasn't the only reason we got Caleb, but it played a major factor. Like we literally outdid Georgia. And again, I love that. It makes me proud to be a Buckeye because we're flexing our muscle in a major way. But this is a kid that he's just going to be a dominant force in the back end of our defense, and I just can't wait. Again, when I hear that a kid's a great kid and he's that talented and he just puts his head down and works. Like he's not a loud kid. He's all that in a bag of chips now. I mean, I get so excited, and both these guys are that. Nevada, your thoughts on JJ and Caleb Downs?
Well, and Caleb, look, we're in the business of killing narratives, and there's been a narrative put out there by folks, and lots of reasons why this happens. But oh, Jim Knowles can't recruit. He's not a good. Well, look, he's a different kind of recruiter. He's not the flashy Brian Hartline. I'll sit down and play Call of Duty with you, or Madden or whatever. But when you talk to the Downs family, except they've got another son in the NFL, so these guys know what they're talking about. And when they were asked to talk about, how this pitch went, who impressed them the most, the first name they mentioned was Knowles. The first name they mentioned. So Knowles killed it in that session where they went down there with Walton, with Day, and pulled out the stops to get him. But Jim Knowles is very, very impressive in those settings. And like I said, I laugh when I hear stuff kind of put out there. Oh, he doesn't recruit it. Well, we just got the biggest fish of all of them during this offseason in Caleb Down. Caleb, if you put down a list and you had like a draft, a fantasy draft of all the players that were out there in terms of potentially, Caleb Downs is the number one guy. I mean, he's the number one guy, and we got him. And so, no, I think they're both high impact guys, high character guys. They've immediately made an impression on the upperclassmen. Have kind of welcomed these guys in because they know that, like you said, they're serious. They're sober about what they need to do to kind of get out there on the field, and the other players are excited because they know these guys will help them win a national championship. And I'm excited. I remember telling you guys about Marvin Harrison when he came in as a freshman, and we'd had reports about how strong he was and what he was doing. And it took him a little while to kind of get going, but once he did, he's leaving as one of maybe the greatest wide receiver to ever play. Well, that's the kind of stuff we're hearing about JJ, and you're all going to see it on the field here shortly.
Yeah, and some of these guys, like that was, like my favorite part about when I was in the program is when the new guys would show up and you could kind of just see what was their makeup, like what made them tick. Because there's some kids that show up and they do everything right. Like Pat Offline did everything right. Jacoby Bourne did everything. They're always on time. They're early. They take notes in every meeting. I can call. Because I'd cold calling guys when I'd be running offensive line meetings, and they could regurgitate everything I just said to them. But Offline was just like, he was a guy where I was like, he doesn't look like much, and it's not an insult to Pat, but I mean we had better looking guys in the room in terms of like their physical stature, how wide they were, how big they were. But I was like, Pat's gonna just eat their faces. Like he's a nasty dude, and not in like a you know push an old lady down a flight of steps way, but I mean like he's nasty on the field. Greatest kid in the world. I'm so happy that he married Jim Lachey's daughter because then he'll be able to make more NFL linemen, which is great for the Bucks. But he was a kid that I was like, this kid's gonna be really good. And he ends up winning the Remington. He's had a really nice career. He's been 6, 7 years in the league now. Um, but it's exciting because it kind of feels like you're panning for gold. You're like, oh wow, we found a real one here. And this kid's gonna be a cornerstone to the deal. I threw some Caleb Downs on for you guys so you guys can look at something other than me. But this is the Caleb Downs high school film. Again, this is only a year ago, but it is really fun to watch. And again, I there's some nights I'm just up and I just watch some old school high school highlights, like some Jadavian Clowney or stuff, just because it's kind of cool to see how these guys end up panning out. Um, Sean Kruka, this is a great question. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for always being a part of the scoop. Uh, Thank you for the five, Sean. Ian Rappaport said the Raiders interviewed Chip Kelly for OC before hiring Cliff Kingsbury. What are the chances more prominent college coaches bowl for the NFL? I think that is going to be the new normal. Is that these guys are going to be bolt to be coordinators? I think a lot of these guys would rather be coordinators in the NFL than be, basically fundraisers for college football because that's kind of what they turn into. That's why you got to have a powerful NIL group like the Foundation that can really help you close the deals, close the fundraising. Because like a guy like Jeff Halfley at Boston College can't raise any money, and his whole roster is for the poaching and again, like if you don't have like really hardcore people that really support your program, good luck, and really outside of Ohio State football, I mean, there's a lot of our guys at Ohio State, like at the wrestling program. I mean, they've got their guys get offered a lot of money from some of these wrestling programs that have billionaires behind them. So that's just the new normal. So if you go to the NFL, you don't have to worry about that anymore because your guys are under contracts and you can cut them if you want to, you trade them if you want to, or when they're going to be walking out the door if they have an expiring contract. So I think that stability and the lack of having to babysit a roster and beg kids to stay and that type of thing is going to be enticing to modern coaches because these guys, like when you really get down to the brass tacks, they want to coach football. And when all this new stuff comes in that deviates from coaching football, like begging kids to stay in December. Like when in December, Ryan Day has to meet with basically like 30 kids on the roster that want to know their status and their parents and hey, can I get some NIL money to stay and blah blah blah. Like that's exhausting, because then you got to go, no, we're not doing any NIL stuff after the bowl game, blah blah blah. Like when you're in the league, you don't have to in the NFL, you don't have to do any of that. You just coach football. And the problem is like in the NFL, these guys get fired like every 2 years, so you're not going to be there long. But the NFL is where it's at. I mean, I was in the NFL, and like when you're done in the NFL, like when if you lose in the playoffs or you don't make the playoffs, if you don't make the playoffs in the NFL, like you're done from like December 31st until like mid March. Like you don't have to go to the football facility at all. If you're a college coach or a college player, like you're in there January 10th, and you're grinding hard. That's a big difference. Nevada, is this the new normal that college head coaches bolt for the NFL?
I think it is. I think it is, and I think it's going to be really hard because you've got 110 schools that are basically serving as like farm clubs for the top schools, and that's going to be tough to keep guys there in terms of doing those jobs. And at the top jobs, like you said, the jobs emerge. You're constantly having to be recruiting not only current new kids, but you have to recruiting your own roster over and over again to keep them happy, keep them in the fold, dealing with NIL. So I think we've just starting to see it happen. How does it happen? A little at first, then all at once. That's what's kind of happening with this. I think that is the new normal for college and NFL coaches. They're all going to want to end up in the NFL, and it's going to be it's going to be a profound change that we're just all going to have to deal with going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mike Green, thank you for the five. We've all seen Ryan pass all three downs in the red zone. Yeah, old Billy ain't having that unless it's schemed for the running backs. it'll be interesting to see how they match. Because again, that's like the fascinating thing about when you bring in two big personalities into one offensive room. I mean, it's gonna be you're gonna get hot now sometimes now. It ain't always fun in there. I mean, when I worked for Urban, man, it was a blast furnace every day, and we never knew who was getting it. People had different opinions. It was a blast furnace, and if you got thin skin and you can't take a little ribbon, don't coach football, especially at a high level with a lot of pressure and big personalities, because it is. I mean, it's spectacular to be a part of because I mean, it's every day is a UFC fight in the staff room. But it'll be interesting to see how these guys come together because I'm gonna be excited about that. Bullet Train, thank you for the 10. Guys, thanks for all the great content. Is Ozzy Tropillo in the portal yet? Sorry if I missed that. As of before the show started, not yet. But he's getting followed by the guys at Ohio State, and you can kind of see where this goes to. He's probably evaluating his options because he's shocked. His coach just walked out the door, literally yesterday. So he's figuring out what to do. And again, like the hard part is who's going to be the next coach. Like BC's going to have to take a week to figure out who they got to do a search now. They got to go figure out who they're going to interview. Is this the right guy? And then, the next domino is who gets retained on the staff because they might bring in a no line coach that he hates and he doesn't want to work with and hit the portal, go make some money, go to a contender. Because you got to understand, like, if you're at Boston College, you're at one of the worst programs in the country. I mean, you're going to get smoked by most of the good schools that you play, and you have a chance to go win a national championship at Ohio State. So he's not joined yet, but we're hearing that they want to load up the Brinks truck in case he does. And again, that's the same with the Michigan guys because the Michigan guys are different. There's they got that 30-day window with Harbaugh, but I think that once the bomb drops in March, April, that is when it's going to get real interesting because there's going to be a lot of guys in the spring say, "Man, do I want to play with the sanctions and all this gloom and doom that's hanging over this program, or do I want to go win a natty at another program, win a second natty, be one of the few guys that's won two national championships at different schools?" I don't know if anyone's ever done that. So yeah, Sean Rollins, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 50. Other than the foundation and CJ, is anyone else donating? Um, I got some intel on 1870. I'm not going to get into it, but it's looking like B Foundation is starting to really take over. Again, they were exclusive on Caleb Downs. They were 99% of Will Howard. They're killing it, and CJ Stroud is another feather in the cap. He gave 100 grand, which is great. But when Ryan Day said, at a meeting last year that he needed about 12 to 13 million to retain this roster. Like he didn't just like pull that out of the sky. Like there's math behind this stuff, and so that is a ton of money to raise for something like NIL. And the foundation is raising it. They're raising money, and they're like I said, when again, you can say whatever you want about me or the foundation, whatever, but like when Ryan Day needed it the most, and he had the best player, the best defensive player in the country, in my opinion, Caleb Downs, on the hook, he called those guys, and those guys delivered in spades, and that's a great relationship. Everyone's happy on all sides, which is great. And to me, when you have great dealings between a collective, a football program in Ryan Day, and then like a player who's a dominant, he's like a 10-star prospect out of the portal on Caleb Downs. That all just bodes well for the future because, these parents talk and more, these agents talk. So these agents will say, man, we went to Ohio State. They're awesome to deal with. They do everything they say they're going to do. Everything ran through compliance. Everything, there's no wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like everything is done great there and the checks all cashed and I'm saying like it's I love it. Nothing makes me happier than when Ohio State is getting to the point where they're becoming unfair as a football program, and that's where we're starting to get to. And if we get this tackled, oh boy. Your thoughts, Nevada, on the foundation and CJ, and is anyone else donating?
Well, it just you talk about 12, 13 million a year or whatever, and that was before you're talking about going out after some of these bigger fish out there in the sea. So, I mean, it just put that in your mind right there. Like that didn't exist. That expense did not exist
No.
5 years ago. And now you're looking at now you have this other line item of we need to raise 12, 13, 15, 20 million a year to remain competitive or remain elite in college football. That's that's a big number. That's a big number, and it's all coming from outside the program. This is not generate. This isn't part of the expanded media deal. This isn't part of the expanded revenues from suites or anything from Ohio State. This is all outside of that.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible undertaking. I don't know how sustainable it is. I just don't, because you've got, I mean, you look at the 20 million. That's just Ohio State. Go across the entire college football landscape,
Yeah.
and it's billions of dollars that are having to be raised every single year, just through charitable giving to give to the players. And it's not, like I said, and it's not coming from the revenues. It's just coming from people doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So um, I don't know how sustainable it is, but I'm not going to worry about that right now, because it is what it is. And Ohio State got good at it. They figured it out before a lot of other teams will figure it out. But Ohio State has figured it out, operating at a high level, and that really bodes well for 2024.
Yeah, I totally agree. Uh, Mello7, appreciate the deuce, my friend. Scoop and Menace to Sports is unfwittable. I appreciate that, man. Great show, fellas. Thank you, Mello. You're the best one, man. Thank you for being a regular on here every night. Appreciate you, brother. Don Schaefer, um, thank you for the 20. Thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member as well. Appreciate you, brother. I'm really not sure how you guys do all this thing at a high level every day. It's because of you guys. Like, we don't do this in the dark. We don't do this, hey, let's tape a pot. Like, we love it. You guys carry it. I mean, again, we this is a great show because you guys made it one. Not anybody else. You guys. You guys tune in. You guys bring the fire. You guys bring these great questions. We always have stuff to talk about, and there's always stuff going on in Ohio State. We're always getting new intel, new information, new buzz for you guys. But you guys make it. You guys know that, and you guys tune in. The chat is always on fire, incredible. The energy is always crazy. So again, like, it's a great show because you guys made it one, not us. So don't ever forget that, and we appreciate you. Um, the Scoop is the only place to be. Question: any updates on the new kids who are blowing it up, coming right out of the gate? Any surprises? Thanks for what you do. Well, I mean, JJ Smith tested like a freak of nature. Again, he's got the second longest broad jump. The only guy who's got a higher broad jump is Carnell Tate. So you have two SFE guys right at the top of the board. And they've got 110 kids on the roster, so that says a lot right off the top. Um, Ian Moore is a kid that really is strapped up. I mean, he's a guy. Um, I believe his coach. God, I'm blanking right now. I apologize. His coach, I think, is Kyle Ralph. Kyle Ralph played at North Carolina. Really good player at North Carolina. He's an Ohio guy that went to Carolina. He's a year older than me, but I was excited when we got Ian Moore because his head coach was a really good college football offensive lineman. So I knew this kid was going to be coached up. I knew that this kid was going to be trained up in the gym. And he put up good numbers. I think he did like 18 reps at 225, which, again, for an 18-year-old who's still developing in his body, some of these kids, some of them haven't even hit puberty yet, which is, I know that sounds crazy, but there's kids that hit puberty when they're 13, and there's some kids that hit it when they're like 18. Yeah, so some of these guys are late bloomers, like, they hit and then all of a sudden they just rocket ship. So if you're doing 18 as a 22-year-old, he'll be doing 30 by the time he leaves here, which is great. That's a great combo number. Like, when I showed up as an 18-year-old at Ohio State in August, I did 16 reps at 225. And that's like, that's like what like a strong wide receiver does. I was an offensive tackle. I weighed 285, 290 as a freshman. And by the time I was done, I did 34. So again, I put in the work. I was crazy about it. But Ian's a guy. The Armstrong twins were really, really lean. There's a lot of Twitter hubbub about the one that gained 20 pounds. He probably just started eating because the one looked really skinny and he had 17% body fat, and that was lower than Air Nolan, which was crazy. I mean, Air was like, but it was close, like 17.2, and the other kid was 17.1. So, but again, they're all there, and they're there to work. I mean, I'm telling you, these kids that God bless these kids that give up the second half of their senior year of high school because I wouldn't have given that up in a million years. I had a blast my senior year of high school. I loved it, and I didn't want to be doing these 6 a.m. workouts. That's for sure. Nevada, any thoughts? Don Schaefer, thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, my man. Again, when you say something like, I'm really not sure how you guys do this at a high level every day, the scoop is the only place to be. We appreciate that. Again, and also, I'm not sure if you're on buckeyescoop.com, our website, but that thing is crazy. Like, that thing, it's like the city that never sleeps is buckeyescoop.com. There's always people on there talking football, and it's awesome. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, no. Again, we appreciate everybody and the like I said, it's fun to do the show. If the shows weren't fun, to be honest with you, we wouldn't do them because nothing's worth doing this every day if it's not a ball. And we actually look forward to it. It's the best part of my day. It's the best hour that I spend. I feel like I'm spending it with friends, and it's even fun when somebody spams in the chat that Naeem offered as a Buckeye over and over and over again. I guess maybe he wants us to talk about Naeem Offord or something like that. I guess he's coming at number 2 cornerback in the country coming in
Yeah.
this weekend. And I think we got a Fong bomb, even though Fong's been off. Fong has
Oh,
been
I know.
bombing.
I don't even like saying the Fong Bomb anymore.
I
You
know,
know.
I know. Except for when he's picking up for Ohio State, I'm like, hey, okay, way to go, Fong. I think he's picking up. But yeah, so another guy that we have a chance. So the rich continue to get richer. But thanks for the kind words, guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, he's the guy that Fong Crystal Balled. He's a 5-star superstar corner. I'll pull him up in a second. Probably talk about him tomorrow or Saturday. Tora, you're the best, brother. I appreciate you so much. Stay strapped, stay golden. Tora, the enforcer of the chat, our moderator, does a phenomenal job. Stay golden, my brother. You already know Buckeye Scoop. Stay strapped up, dude. I love you so much. You're the best. Much love to Nevada Buck and Buckeye Scoop family in the chat, brother. TT Tora, appreciate you, brother. You are the absolute best. All you do is amazing, and you are killing it. And we love that you're. You guys got to understand, Tora is the first Hall of Famer in Buckeye Scoop, in the history of our podcast. We're actually gonna have a mural, like a little graphic with the Hall of Famers in here that have been so generous. And like I've talked to him for a lot on the phone recently. Nicest human being in the world. And wanted to help out the show. And he's like, dude, I'd love to get the wrench and moderate. I didn't even know what that meant. So he showed me how to do it, and now we've got a guy that's on. He's part of the team now. So Tora is our boy, dude. We love you, bro. You're the best. Because again, running the show is a blast, but there's some technical work stuff that I got to make sure I'm on point with. So having an extra set of eyes on the chat is amazing. Like, you guys have no idea what that does for me, and I just appreciate you so much, brother. Expedition Greg, thank you for the deuce. What's the latest on Chip Kelly to the NFL rumors? I mean, something's up at UCLA, man. Like, something's up because he's kind of like pulling the hardball where he's interviewing everywhere and looking everywhere. And there was a rumor that Ohio State was going after him to be the OC this year, and they got Bill O'Brien and said, but Chip wanted too much money. He wanted like 3 million to be a coordinator, and we're not doing that. But something's up there, man. Because when guys are looking, it's probably because they're tired of NIL. They're tired of the portal, and they want to get back to the NFL. Like, again, this isn't like some accident that all of a sudden all these guys are bolting and going to the league, because the NFL is awesome. Like, I mean, it's the highest level of football. You can cut players that you don't like. It's the highest level. There's nothing like it. So it wouldn't surprise me if he takes off. Again, I think that there's tough feelings between that school and him right now and the AD. But a guy's not openly looking for a job unless there's something that really stinks there. So if he got named an OC somewhere, wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Matty Bucks, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, brother. Long time watcher, first time poster, Southern Ohio, but Galplis, baby. I love it. I love the river, Chesapeake, South Point, all my boys down there, Pullman Square, Tudor's Biscuit World. I love it. Now in Phoenix. That's awesome. Phoenix is a great place to be this time of the year. Bob is a great fit for Natty Power Run game. It's his forte. Last 2 titles, boasted Power Run with Mo and Zeke. Your thoughts, Nevada OH?
I
Well, Nevada, I'll let you take this one right off the top. Your thoughts on the power running game and Bill O'Brien being a great fit for the Natty, and then I'll chime in.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and we've talked a little bit about it earlier, but the other thing that we haven't really talked about, but we've kind of gone on, he won't be afraid to run the quarterback, or at least to encourage the quarterback to take yards if they're there, and that's always
Yeah.
been a thing that we've been kind of on. I mean, we all remember what Deshaun Watson was when he was Deshaun Watson down there in Houston. He was a freak of nature. He was an offensive, juggernaut that just kind of took it out on the other teams every week. So that's one of the big things that I mean. As much as I like the power running game, as much as I like the downfield passing game, um, encouraging the quarterbacks to be opportunistic and take yards when they present themselves, to me, is the differentiator. I see it every week in the NFL, and every time I see it, I'm just like, I can't believe we do not have a rushing touchdown out of our QB1 in 3 years. And that's going to change under Bill O'Brien. But yeah, the power running game is going to be back. We've got our own version of Arian Foster times two, and that's gonna be fun to win. That is a necessary ingredient to national championship football. I firmly believe that, and I think that's why we're so well equipped to do it in 2024.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you were talking about that, I was like, I got to look up the rushing touchdowns that he had as a as a quarterback. I mean, his second year he had five. His third year he had seven. And that was right prime Bill O'Brien. And again, you watch these guys every week. You see how they run. Mahomes is one of the greatest scramblers in history because it seems like anytime they need it, he can get it. And it's not because he's some elite athlete. I mean, a lot of people saw the photo of him in the locker room with his shirt off, and he's got a little bit of a tire. And again, a lot of these quarterbacks, it's kind of funny. They're all a little doughy because it helps them like kind of absorb getting hit. Like you notice a lot of these guys don't have six packs other than Brady. They got a little fat around them because they're gonna get killed now. Like I mean, Roethlisberger, some of those guys are heavy because they got to absorb Miles Garrett, running through their flak jacket, and that's tough. But I appreciate that, Maddie. It's probably still a little cold in Phoenix, but I appreciate the Southern Ohio love. Again, we have a ton of Buckeyes, a ton of Ohio State fans that are in Southern Ohio, so we appreciate you guys. We try to bring it for you guys every night. Make sure you guys eat Tudor's biscuits this weekend. It's the best. Brutus B. Buckeye, thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you, brother. Where can I find an autographed photo of Nevada? Ooh, that is a good one. That is a good one, Nevada. They have one at Pawn Stars or anywhere, or Gold and Silver, or eBay, or maybe like one of these big auction sites? I don't know. Do they?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that'll be one of the rare things. The autograph picture of Nevada. We'll probably put it out in some sort of like our next card set thing. It'll be like a one of one limited edition, and we can have like a piece of one of my dress shirts and maybe a poker chip or something like that, and we'll put that
Yeah.
in there, and that'll be it. But yeah, that would be quite the collector's item for sure.
You could get like a video poker like voucher or something and like sign that and say to Kirk with love, here's your 3 cents voucher that I didn't cash. I'm like, oh my God. You know what? We'll do that for the 50,000. We get 50,000 subs. We'll do that.
No, you're
Do
wearing a moo. You're wearing a moo on the 50,000 sub show. We're coming up to
we'll, we,
30,000.
we'll do both. I'll order the moo. We get to 50,000 subs. I might wear a moo for the rest of my life. I don't care. You know. I mean, I don't care. I mean, we're growing. Um, well, it's probably a good point to wrap it. We're right at about 90 minutes. Nevada, your final thoughts. Great show. Appreciate you guys. But final thoughts, Nevada.
Um, I just wanted to say, and I'm not shilling for Buffalo Wild Wings because they are a sponsor, but I had the Buffalo Wild Wings burger. I had they have these new smash burgers, like the bacon cheese
Oh
smash
God.
burger. That it was so good, man. I'm just telling you, like I've always thought about Buffalo Wild Wings, and I think about the wings. Go have the smash burger there at Buffalo Wild Wings, and tell me it's not terrific because it was that was a taste treat. So enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, and they're bringing back the quesadilla. Thank God. I love the quesadilla. It's the best. They've got a cheese curd burger too that is delicious. That's my favorite one. So God bless B Dubs. They are our sports bar partners. So you guys see me drinking out my B Dubs cups. I have a entire stack of them, so I could probably build, like a fortress around my house with B Dubs cups. But we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys had a great time with us. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Shout out where you guys are watching from. I love to see where you guys are watching from. We got people watching from Korea, Dubai, Europe, all over the place. So it never ceases to amaze me. And shout out to all of our soldiers that are overseas protecting us. Freedom is not free, and we respect that on Buckeye Scoop very much. So we appreciate you guys. As always, our super chats go to our Pay It Forward Fund to help hook you guys up with free subscriptions to our website. So thank you guys for your generosity and for taking care of our troops. As always, if you could click a like on the way out, that would be huge for us. Those are huge for promoting the video and growing the channel. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Also, click that little subscribe button if you have not. Send this to your friends, your coworkers, your buddies, your favorite Michigan people. We've got a ton of Michigan subscribers that like the show too. So it's always fun to see who's watching and who likes to leave comments on YouTube videos. Um, and also, if you love our live shows, click that little alert bell. You'll get an alert when we go live, and it's always fun. So we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for making this channel so special. Again, we love kicking it with you guys. You guys make this a great show. So thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Buckeye Scoop family. You guys are the absolute best. I will see you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. About to jump on there and hammer the message board for a little bit. If you guys aren't part of it, you guys are crazy because it is an absolute blast to be on our message board. Great people, great fun, great information. It's always popping. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.